This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. A criminal investigation is underway tonight into the sudden death of a man on Hobart's eastern shore. The man was discovered in the lounge by his housemate on Sunday morning, who police say is now assisting them with their inquiries.
Investigators swarming the scene of where a 57-year-old man was found dead in his lounge room. Police alerted to this unit at Torres Road in Warrane around 10 o'clock yesterday morning by the victim's housemate.
The circumstances in which the deceased was found has meant that a crime scene's been established, and the male person who called us is currently in custody and is assisting us with our inquiries.
On Saturday evening, police were called to the unit for another matter, but say this incident occurred in the early hours of Sunday morning.
There's a possibility that the two instances are linked, and that will form part of our inquiries.
Witnesses say the 53-year-old housemate was extremely distressed, alerting neighbours who called emergency services.
Accusers running around sort of saying, I think he's passed away, I think he's deceased. People went in and out of the unit trying to perform CPR.
I can tell you that our forensic examination is currently ongoing, and I can also advise that there is no suggestion of any other persons involved in this death.
A criminal investigation now underway, with police trying to piece together information from neighbours to determine exactly what happened on Saturday evening.
We've canvassed widely around the area, and we've received information in relation to the occupants of that unit, and that will form part of the ongoing investigation.
Local residents saying the man lived at the property for years, describing him as a peaceful person who kept to himself.
Wasn't someone who really deserved it, and especially when you go like a close little community like this, like at the end of the street in a cul-de-sac, everyone knows each other and they've all been here a long time. You know, it sort of does take a bit of a hit.
No charges have been laid. The victim's family has been notified. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
A 27-year-old man has died following a motorcycle crash in Hobart's northern suburbs. Tasmania police say the man lost control of his bike, hit the curb and slid along the nature strip. He died at the scene. Investigations into the exact cause of the crash are continuing. Anyone who saw the motorcycle or witnessed the crash is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. A Taswater contractor has received serious burns at a workplace incident in North Hobart. Authorities believe he may have hit a high voltage power line while excavating a trench.
Crews assessing the Argyle Street worksite this morning after reports of two loud booms, smoke and a worker seriously injured.
It appears that the work was being done under the road, and then there's been an incident that's caused this man to suffer some burns.
The 32-year-old is said to have suffered flash burns to his hands and face. WorkSafe Tasmania says initial reports indicate excavations hit a high-voltage power cable owned by Tas Networks.
At this stage, we've got them to come along and check the integrity of the electrical system underneath the road, and that's certainly part of what we're working at right now.
Police blocked Argyle Street for several hours as emergency crews work to find out exactly what happened here and to ensure the scene is safe.
We have workplace standards. Obviously, it appears to be a workplace accident, and they would certainly be the main ones that will be conducting this investigation.
Tonight, the worker is in a stable condition in hospital. Taswater has confirmed he's one of the company's contractors, in a statement saying its primary concerns are for the injured worker, his colleagues, and finding out exactly what happened. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
Tributes are flowing for experienced Tasmanian pilot Sandra Southwell, who died in a light plane crash in the state's northeast on Saturday. Her partner survived the crash but is expected to remain in hospital for some time.
A life tragically cut short. Sandra Southwell's death sending shockwaves across the aviation community.
Sandra will be extremely missed in not just our club, but the aviation community around Australia, because she's a giver, not a taker. And I think a lot of people will miss her terribly.
The crash happened at a private airstrip in Boobyalla late Saturday afternoon. Initial investigations suggest the pilot encountered an issue when trying to land, prompting a second attempt.
They have then conducted a go-around from the witness reports. They've then commenced a climb out, so as though they're taking off, climbing out, and then they have hit a tree towards the end of the runway.
The 63-year-old aviation expert and her partner Barry Bransden were en route from Sheffield. She died on her way to hospital and her partner remains in hospital in a stable condition. Emotional tributes flowing on social media describing the passionate pilot as a lovely lady with a great smile.
She's well known all over the country, so there is sadness all over the country. I think a lot of people are very numb at the moment.
This is as far as the media were allowed to go today. Investigators remain on scene, piecing together exactly what happened on Saturday night. They're expected to remain here for 2 to 3 days.
We'll look at the history of the aircraft to ensure that there weren't any mechanical issues. We'll look at the pilot history and we'll look at particularly the conditions on the day.
A factual preliminary report will be prepared once investigators head back to Canberra. Rita Risk, Southern Cross News.
The Liberals have revealed their plans for the Ashley Youth Detention Centre, announcing they'd refurbish the facility and keep it open. The plan goes against a major independent report which examined the youth justice system. That report has only just been publicly released, despite being completed around 15 months ago.
The Ashley Youth Detention Centre at Deloraine houses offenders 10 to 18 years old. The future of this facility has been under a cloud. Now the Liberals say they would keep it open.
This government has decided that Ashley will remain open and will invest an extra $7.28 million into that site.
A report into youth justice options said that plan is not feasible and won't fundamentally address problems and objectives. It preferred 2 smaller purpose-built facilities in Launceston and Hobart.
Noetic's preferred option was going to cost us about an extra $36 million over 20 years, and we couldn't justify that when we know that, we could put that into early intervention and prevention to stop kids from getting to Ashley in the first place.
The Health and Community Services Union is welcoming job security for workers.
There will be ongoing employment, at least for a lot of staff. That does provide some confidence in our members' minds. They've wanted certainty around this issue.
But the current operation of the facility is marred by high recidivism rates. 74% of those who go through Ashley reoffend within 12 months. It costs more than $9 million a year to run and requires around 60 staff for an average of 10 detainees.
There has been a significant change in the way that the courts deal with youth offenders, which means that in recent times, certainly over the last 12 months to 2 years, there's been a significant reduction in children in the facility.
The Greens say the Liberals' plan to keep Ashley open is down to cynical politics.
It's clear because they've ignored the consultants' advice. It's clear that this is about their seat in Lions. It's not about delivering better outcomes for young people who get into trouble with the youth justice system.
This government makes no apology for keeping Ashley open because of the impact that it'll have on Deloraine, but also the fact we'll have more money to invest in other services.
The options paper examining youth justice was completed in October 2016 and has only been released today, 15 months later. Labor says it will examine the report and announce its policy soon.
The government has only just released that report today on the eve of an election. We'll certainly consider the recommendations. I'm looking forward to reading through the report in full and making an informed decision with my colleagues on the future of Ashley.
Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
Construction has begun on a $280 million wind farm on Tasmania's west coast, which is set to power 40,000 homes and bring the state closer to self-sufficiency. The region's local mayor says the mega project is the biggest the region has seen for more than a decade. It's located at Granville Harbour, near Zeehan, which is expected to benefit financially from the flow-on effects of the construction phase.
Digging up a wind-powered wonder. This is the start of what will become 31 turbines pumping out 112 megawatts of electricity, enough to power 40,000 homes. It's a bold new venture for the property's owner, Roy Smith.
The main thing was a power purchase agreement, which we didn't have for a long time, which was successfully to get it last year with hydro.
The towers, made in Launceston, will stand 115 metres tall, each one held down by monster concrete footings weighing around 3,000 tonnes.
That's our vision, is for this state to be entirely renewable energy self-sufficient by just 2022.
The local mayor says this is the biggest project the West Coast has seen in more than a decade, breathing life into traditional mining towns hit hard by the industry's downturn. Up to 200 workers will be needed during construction, with a further 10 in full-time positions thereafter.
Those jobs will be filled by people from all over Tasmania, but they've got to stay somewhere, so we believe that Zoon will be the place that they'll stay.
The wind farm is being bankrolled by a Sydney investment firm, a sign of faith in the future of renewable energy.
We've been invested into renewables for the last 12, 13 years now.
It's been a long road to this point here today. The property owners were first approached about the wind farm idea 15 years ago. But it wasn't until 6 years ago they decided to take up the offer under very casual circumstances.
6 years ago, me and my friend Alex and a few beers in the shed decided, well, let's take on a $280 million project.
The first turbine is expected to be installed by the end of the year, with power going into the grid from early 2019. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
The Tasmania Fire Service has issued an advice warning for a bushfire burning at Rochalee. The blaze near Reservoir Road was first reported at around 2:30, with more than a dozen tankers and 3 water-bombing helicopters mobilised to fight the fire. Tasmania Police has evacuated the RSPCA and surrounding buildings. At this stage, there is no immediate threat to property, but people are being advised to avoid the area. Residents can get further information from the TFS website. In developing news tonight, biosecurity authorities have declared a control area for the whole of Flinders Island after more cases of a serious pest. Queensland fruit fly larvae were found at Lady Barron last week, and experts have now identified more on a property 20 kilometres to the west. It's the first time larvae have been detected in locally grown fruit. Authorities say they're taking the incursion seriously, but say it is contained to Flinders Island. People are required by law to report signs of fruit fly to Biosecurity Tasmania. Thanks to tireless fundraising efforts from a group of very passionate animal lovers, the state's first veterinary hospital exclusively for wildlife is now officially open. Our crew made the journey to the Bonarong Sanctuary today for a sneak peek.
For Bonarong's owner, this has been a long time coming.
Since I was a little tacker, that was one of the big things on my hit list was to see a rescue service fully functional and a dedicated wildlife hospital. And
his dream now reality due to a mammoth 5-year fundraising effort of around $250,000.
It's awesome. It just gives me goosebumps. We've really worked so hard for this. I don't know how many sausages we've cooked over the last 5 years, or cakes we've made.
Catering just for injured or orphaned wildlife, the hospital will start off by operating 2 days a week in the hopes of extending that to 7 with further fundraising.
Last year we received 7,426 calls for assistance for injured and orphan wildlife. You know, all wildlife is petrified when it's in a clinic, so you really do need specialists as well as specialist facilities to give them the care they need.
A viewing platform will allow the public to watch surgery unfold in a bid to raise awareness and reduce the number of animals injured or killed on Tasmanian roads.
So that's probably the thing that we see the most, road-related trauma. And it's, sometimes it's quite heartbreaking to see the way that the animals arrive.
Bonarong Wildlife Rescue can be contacted 24 hours a day. Tom Cooper, Southern Cross News.
A public inquiry into the state's handling of blueberry rust reconvened today. The Legislative Council hosted inquiry prompted by blueberry growers, hearing claims of inconsistencies with the way Biosecurity Tasmania has handled blueberry rust. Fruit Growers Tasmania say they don't believe there was a direct inspection of blueberry plants.
This incursion, these crop destructions, this inquiry, none of it, if that change had not been made, and I just can't understand the technical justification for it.
The inquiry is expected to continue. Now look at the day's business and finance with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. Australian shares have given up their early gains and closed lower, with the banks weighing on the overall index. The ASX 200 index has dropped by 13.9 points. Short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 79.9 US cents and 109.82 New Zealand cents.
And after winning a club record 5 games in a row, the Hobart Hurricanes now find themselves in a precarious position approaching BBL finals. The side have to win their final match if they're to make semis, but it won't be an easy ask against the Stars at the MCG. Batting down the order at number 6, Malenko's 66-run effort was almost enough to see the Canes over the line against the Scorchers on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's funny how cricket works. Sometimes when you are under pressure, you seem to free up and play quite freely, so it seemed to be like that the other night.
The 5-wicket loss was the Canes' second in a row, with the Renegades, the Thunder and the Heat now just 1 win behind them on the ladder.
We've taken lots of positives out of them, so it certainly hasn't felt like amongst the group we've come out of 2 really poor games of cricket. We're still playing good cricket. The
side now face a do-or-die clash for their final match and will need other results to go their way if they're to make semi-finals. But Malenko says the squad has the firepower to get it done.
There's a lot of guys in that middle order who can bat kind of anywhere. So the way we set up as a team, it works out really well and it gives us good depth.
The Canes take on the Melbourne Stars at the MCG on Saturday afternoon. And if the Canes do make it through to semi-finals, they'll be without arguably their most dangerous player. As mentioned earlier, Darcy Short has earned a call-up into the national T20 side, which was announced today. Short has been on fire this BBL season, smashing the highest ever individual score and also the highest total runs scored since the tournament began.
We'll certainly miss him, but we've also got a fair bit of batting depth in the squad to try and cover him the best we can.
Australia's first match in the Tri-Series is against New Zealand on February 3. Meantime, a solid effort with the bat from the women's side wasn't enough to get it done against the Scorchers overnight. Batting first, Steph DeFara and Hayley Matthews managed just 24 runs between them. Georgia Redmayne, the best of the bunch with 53 off 49 balls, with the Canes 7 for 130 come the end of 20 overs. The wickets were few and far between for the visitors' attack. Caitlin Fryer claiming 2 for 20, but a 60-run haul from Nicole Bolton ensured the 6-wicket win for the Scorchers with an over to spare. The Canes remain last on the ladder with just 1 win from 12 matches. They take on the Melbourne Stars in Melbourne on Saturday. And just finally in sport, Hobart Yacht Philosopher has become the first Tasmanian boat to win an Australian Yachting Championship, taking out the Division 3 title in a tight finish on Melbourne's Port Phillip Bay yesterday. Last year's King of the Derwent winner claiming the regatta on a countback after heading into the final day of racing 1 point behind before winning the first 2 races of the day. Next year's Australian Yachting Championships will be sailed on Hobart's River Derwent.
Good evening. Hobart 24 today, Launceston reached 29, Burnie 27 and Devonport 25, 32 at Fingal and St Helens, the warmest as the early cloud moved on from most of the state. The west still had some cloudy conditions throughout the day. Cressy 31 degrees, Friendly Beaches 29, Campania and Sheffield 28, Wynyard 27, Bushy Park and Lyowini both reached 26, Grove 25, Low Head and Flinders Island both on 23. Some low cloud over the southern ocean to our west. A mid-level cloud band runs along the southern part of the nation as well. Extensive rain and thunderstorm cloud has gathered over the tropics, with that trough too over the Coral Sea. Mostly cloud-free today. We can see some low-level cloud over the west and parts of the central east coast today as it moved off. Tomorrow, a weak low will be just to our northeast. A high over the Bight extends a ridge through Bass Strait. Inland troughs linked to lows run from Victoria to WA. East to south-east winds over the east coast tomorrow to 15 knots. Northwest to southwest winds over most other waters at 10 to 20 knots, swells to 3 metres in southern waters. Hobart tomorrow, partly cloudy, 25 the top, 23 for Adventure Bay, bit of cloud over Tarraleah and 21 the maximum. Launceston partly cloudy and 28. The coolest it'll be all week, 24 for Devonport, and Bridport mostly sunny and 24 degrees. For Burnie, partly cloudy and 24, 20 the top for Strawn and Marrawar, while for St Helens mostly sunny and 25, 24 the high for Swansea, White Mark on Flinders, 22 degrees. And the UV? That's extreme for the entire state on 11. On Wednesday, warm and sunny over the north and east, a morning shower for the west. Fine and sunny and hot conditions over the north on Thursday, a possible shower over the west and early over the south. And on Friday, partly cloudy with a shower over the north as Launceston aims for plus 30 temperatures from Wednesday through to the weekend, when it's forecast for 35 on Saturday and Sunday. Further north tomorrow, 33 for Perth. Sunny for Adelaide and Alice Springs. Fine, but just 23 in Melbourne. Temperatures into the 30s for Canberra, Sydney and Brisbane. Conditions mostly clear right now, 22 in Hobart, 25 in Launceston, mostly clear in Devonport and 24. Partly cloudy but fine weather, Joe, ahead. Not much rain up there coming our way.
I have to get the hose out tonight for the garden. Thank you very much for that, Murph. That's all from the team for now. Have a lovely evening. We'll see you a bit later with updates. Bye-bye.